All right, today we're tackling one of the biggest, truly fundamental challenges in the entire crypto world. It's called the Blockchain Trilemma. And honestly, it's like this invisible wall that every developer is desperately trying to smash through.
We've all heard the pitch, right? That blockchain is this revolutionary tech that's going to change, well, everything. It's the bedrock for crypto, for DeFi, for digital identity, you name it. The promise is huge to completely flip the script on how we think about trust, ownership, and even value itself.
But, and there's always a but, isn't there? Beneath all that incredible potential, there's a core conflict, a paradox that every single blockchain has to deal with. So, the big question is, why? What's the catch? What's really holding this game-changing tech back?
Well, that big problem actually has a name, the Blockchain Trilemma. Now, this isn't some random term. It was made famous by Ethereum's own co-founder, Vitalik Buterin. He used it to perfectly describe the massive engineering hurdle that pretty much all decentralized systems are up against.
So what is it exactly? Okay, think of it like this. The trilemma basically says it's almost impossible for a blockchain to be great at three things all at once. Those three things are its pillars: security, scalability, and decentralization. And here's the kicker. When you try to beef up one of them, you almost always end up weakening one of the others. It's a constant balancing act. So to really wrap our heads around this, let's break down each of these three pillars. What do they actually mean?
First up, we've got security. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It's the blockchain's ability to be an absolute fortress, to fight off attacks, fraud, any kind of manipulation. It's what guarantees that once something is written to the ledger, it can't be changed. It's set in stone. The classic example? Bitcoin. Its security is legendary, and that's because its network is so huge that trying to attack it would be ridiculously, astronomically expensive.
Okay, pillar number 2, scalability. Just think of this as the network's bandwidth. How much traffic can it handle? We measure this in transactions per second, or TPS. Can it handle a ton of users all at once, or is it going to grind to a halt? To give you some perspective, a company like Visa can process thousands of transactions every single second. But early blockchains? Bitcoin, for example, clocks in at around 7 TPS. So you can see why this is a massive challenge. And last but not least, decentralization. Now, this one is kind of the soul of blockchain, right? It's the core idea. It means no single company, no government, no one person is pulling the strings. Instead, control is spread out among thousands of different people all over the globe. A great real-world example is DeFi, decentralized finance, where you can do things like lend or trade without a big bank sitting in the middle. Okay, so we've got these three incredible features: ironclad security, lightning-fast speed, and no single boss. Sounds perfect, right? So why can't we just have all three? Well, this is where that unavoidable trade-off really kicks in. All right, here's the heart of the problem. To get that amazing security and decentralization, you need a ton of different computers. We call them nodes, all checking and agreeing on every single transaction. But here's the thing. Getting thousands of computers to all agree on something, well, it takes time. The more nodes you have to get a thumbs up from, the slower the whole network gets, and that absolutely tanks your scalability.
There's a really simple analogy for this that makes it click. Picture a classroom trying to make a decision. If you just let one student decide for everyone, that's super fast, right? But it's also totally centralized. Now, what if you make the entire class vote on it? The decision is way more decentralized and fair, but it's going to take a lot longer to count all those votes. And that, right there, is the trilemma in a nutshell.
And you can see this trade-off playing out everywhere in the real world. Just look at Bitcoin. It goes all in on security and decentralization, but what's the price? That super slow speed we talked about. Then you have Ethereum, which has always tried to find more of a balance, and it's constantly going through upgrades to get faster. And then you have some of the newer kids on the block, these super high-speed chains. They're incredibly fast, but they're often dodging questions about whether they've cut corners on decentralization to get that speed.
But here's the thing. This isn't just a story about a problem with no answer. Not at all. It's a story about a race. Right now, thousands of the smartest people in technology are in a global sprint to crack this code and solve the trilemma. And the solutions pretty much fall into two main camps. I want you to think of the main blockchain, what we call layer 1, as a big, busy highway. Now, one way to solve traffic is to upgrade the highway itself, add more lanes, raise the speed limit. That's a layer 1 solution. But the other approach, which is getting super popular, is to build an express lane or a flyover on top of the highway. That's a layer 2 solution. It moves traffic off the main road to keep things flowing fast.
And one of the most exciting Layer 2 solutions out there is something called a rollup. How it works is actually pretty genius. First, it grabs a whole bunch of transactions and processes them super fast on its own separate network. Then it rolls them up into one single compressed batch. And finally, it just posts a tiny little summary of that batch back down to the main super secure blockchain. So it gets all the speed of a sidechain, but inherits the security of the main chain. It's kind of like sending one armored truck with 1,000 packages inside, instead of sending 1,000 separate slow mail trucks.
And listen, this isn't just some theory on a whiteboard. This is happening right now. There's a huge booming ecosystem of these Layer 2 rollups already live. You've probably heard the names: Arbitrum, Optimism, zk-Sync, Starknet, Base. These guys are processing millions of transactions every single day, making crypto way faster and cheaper for everyone. And they all have their own little twist, from optimistic rollups that kind of assume everything's okay unless challenged, to ZK rollups that use some seriously wild math to prove everything is valid instantly.
Okay, so solving this is obviously a massive technical achievement. But what's the big picture here? Why should you care? Well, it's really all about what solving this trilemma unlocks for our future.
To really get it, just think about how the internet has grown up. We had Web 1, that was the static, read-only internet. Then came Web 2, the internet we live in now, where we can read and write, but big social media companies own all our data. The whole promise of Web 3 is a read-write-own internet, an internet where we control our own data, our own digital stuff. And the engine that powers that future? It has to be a blockchain that is scalable, secure, and decentralized.
So when you boil it all down, this isn't just about making transactions go faster or solving some nerdy tech puzzle. No way. Solving the blockchain trilemma is about finding the key that unlocks the next chapter of the internet itself, a future that's more open, more fair, and actually owned by its users.
And that leaves us with one last massive question to think about. Is this trilemma like a fundamental law of physics for blockchains, something they'll always have to live with? Or is it just today's biggest engineering puzzle, waiting for that one brilliant breakthrough? Honestly, the answer to that question is going to shape our entire digital future.